Tonight's a very special night in the NBA. Tonight is Stephen Curry graduation night. You're being recognized the way that many athletes are being recognized for their greatness, and that is with a bobblehead. And I just wondered if you are aware of anyone else who's ever had a college diploma on a bobblehead and how that makes you feel.
I'm pretty sure this is the first of its kind. I'm gonna have to get our PR team to double fact check that, but it is pretty awesome to know kind of how the story arc of obviously me coming from Davidson, leaving after my third year, and how tough a decision it was to enter the draft early, but the promise of this guy, my mom, my wife Aisha, that I would finish, and obviously the running joke was I didn't know it would take 13 years after that, and the perseverance through it all, but to have that celebrated, and obviously all three of us were there on campus 2 summers ago to celebrate that amazing accomplishment. All that's happened in the last 14 years since I left school, and now having a bobblehead with the cap and gown and the diploma on there, so it's pretty special. And for my fan base here to enjoy that with me, and hopefully it'll inspire somebody.
Well, we're proud of you as Davidson College, and I said at your graduation ceremony, we're your home team.
Absolutely.
And Coach Bob, I wanted to ask you, you are a Hall of Fame coach. You talk about the importance of coaching and also how you've tried to impact the lives of your players. I wanted to ask you how your players have shaped you, how you think of your coaching and as a leader differently because of people like Stephen and the generations of players that you've been able to coach.
To have players from 3 decades do what they did for Davidson College, for their team, for themselves, and for me and our coaching staff left me with quite a treasure chest. I'm convinced we are all coaches. So you're a coach spouse, you're a coach father, you're a coach sibling, you're a coach captain, you're a coach president. And in that process, you're supposed to lead. And the first objective you must have is lead yourself, coach yourself. Too often in our world today, everyone wants to coach someone else, but they don't coach themselves. And what is extraordinary with Steph and what he has taught me is the value of coaching yourself. His career with Golden State, his time at Davidson, his honoring his commitment to graduate. What a great statement about coaching yourself.
Definitely. And Stephen, I wanted to ask you, when did you realize that you were going to be a leader beyond basketball?
I think it's a collection of moments, even starting kind of in high school, where you realize what basketball can do as a form of influence, but then the connections that you have with people, even kids that were younger than me at the time, where I'd go to camps and they'd come up and ask questions about obviously putting the ball in the basket, but also how I dressed, how I talked, what was important to me off the court and what my interests were. And then you realize that kind of sphere of influence that you do have. Never in my wildest dreams did I imagine this, but I've had some amazing influences and role models for me, coach included, that have kind of demonstrated the power of how you present yourself and what you say and how you make people feel that can change their perspective on life or change their level of confidence in themselves.
When you were in high school, we saw an underrated how Davidson believed in you and you committed to Davidson. Did you think about Coach McKillop and Matt Matheny and the other coaches as, did it occur to you that they would be big role models for you? Was that an important part of your decision?
Oh, absolutely. And we told a little bit about it in the documentary, but a lot of it was the feeling that I had when a coach would walk into a room, the feeling I had when Matt Matheny would talk to me about who he saw me as a person and a player and what I could do as a part of the program. And the care factor that, Coach and his leadership that filtered through everything that we did and how he directed his staff to approach the job was so authentic that you couldn't help but connect with it. And so there's obviously basketball decisions of style of play and fit and am I going to have an opportunity to play and that trust there, but that's why he is who he is. That's why he's had the career that he's had and why people talk about him the way that they do, because there's a feeling that you have. I think that's the greatest thing you can say about somebody. They probably won't remember. I remember a lot of what you said, trust me. But it's about how he made people feel, right? And how he challenged people in a way that makes them better. And I felt that from before I even put on a Davidson jersey. So there's something real to that, and I've tried to carry my version of that in terms of how you connect with people, because that does matter.
How'd that feel for you, Bob?
Well, you know, your question and your response, 3 words jumped out to me: trust, commitment, care. TCC.
I got it right here.
And that to me is the foundation of leadership, trust. He has a memorable first game in a Davidson uniform, and 15 points, 13 turnovers, not the proverbial double-double.
I saw the footage, yeah.
We stay with him because he earned that, because we trusted him, he trusted us. And he also trusted himself and his teammates. Next night, 32 points against Michigan. But what does he say in the opening comments in the press conference? I'd like to thank Jason Richards for getting me the ball, Max Paulus-Goslin for helping me out on defense, Thomas Sander, Boris Meno for setting screens. There's a trust, there's a commitment, there's a care.
That's great. Well, let me ask you about your relationship, you two. Famously, your first practice, Stephen, Bob pulled out a white handkerchief. He pushed you. And so at that moment, leader-follower meant a power dynamic. The coach was sending you a message. You were a freshman. You needed to work harder. He was going to have you fulfill your potential. And so I suppose over a number of years now, that relationship has changed. And now Bob, as I and so many, look up to you for being the best shooter of all time. And I'm sure you I know you look up to Bob as one of the great coaches of all time. But that's moved from a kind of a top-down relationship to a more egalitarian, equal relationship. I just wonder how that feels for both of you, how that's evolved over time.
Well, I think just for me to reflect on the journey since, I think I met him way back when I was 10 under 80 baseball, so back in late 90s. And even just that interaction that I might have had at a baseball field playing with Brendan, the son, to the recruiting process, like there was a familiarity there, but the dynamic of the relationship has definitely blossomed over the course of time. My favorite part about it is knowing that we've accomplished so much on the court. He's been such a huge catalyst for the confidence that I have in myself as a basketball player and how I see the game, who I am as a man and a person, a father, a husband. He's poured into that cup so much that now, I mean, we talk basketball from time to time, and he's, we can talk about the game, but I'll get a text message from him about, on my anniversary every year, and it's, cherish Aisha, cherish your wife, cherish the love that you have, that's your biggest, responsibility. Like, that's the reminder he's giving me. It's not make sure you come off the screen with, your shoulder low man wins, or all the other sayings that he has. Like, I don't get those. I get, what's really important in life. And so that's the biggest thing I can say about him in terms of how our relationship has blossomed. And I try to meet him where he's at on that front, because, he has a lot to give in terms of wisdom and understanding, but he's very active in that too. Because I do look forward to those texts. It's the best.
How about you, Bob?
For years, I would say that his greatest physical asset was his eyes. He had fast twitch eye muscles. He would see where the ball is, but also where it was going to be. He was always one step ahead. As our relationship has evolved, as it has grown from coach to observer to star, I'm reminded of what St. Benedict said, see with the eyes of the heart. And that's what he does. And what I've even more recently learned, he hears with the eyes of the heart. He listens. And to have those two capacities, what a teaching moment that is for me, to try to do that myself and replicate that. And that's what a leader does.
You both are men of faith who talk about faith. You don't wear it on your sleeve, either one of you, but you live it out through your actions as well as your words. And I know that's a question that you might not want to talk about a lot, but I'd be curious how you think about your faith in leadership.
It's always been something that, to your point, is not something he screams every time he comes in, but there's a presence, there's a conviction, there's a purpose that he's trying to fulfill with everything that he does. And there are times where it's explicit of, I remember, in college where there were times that he was talking to the man and not just the basketball player, right? And that's trying to, be a good shepherd of men and lead them in the right direction and instill a kind of a moral compass and a perspective of, what matters in life, kind of what we were talking about earlier about your family, your kids now, like your level of influence on just being so grateful and appreciative of everything that you've been blessed with, and how do you give that back? And he doesn't have to say it, he lives it. That's the true measure of a man in that respect. Like, he practices what he preaches, for lack of a better term, but he lives it. And I think that's the thing that I appreciate and love about him the most. It's given me conviction to walk in that faith as well, no matter what life throws at you. And obviously I write on my shoes 2 Bible verses that mean so much to me, Philippians 4:13 and Romans 8:28. And the ability to walk my faith out in terms of how I live, how I walk on a daily basis. You have to have people around you that encourage you in that respect too. And from the time before I even knew what my influence was, he was pouring into that too.
Coaching yourself is so difficult in our contemporary world because the social media invites you to give an opinion about everything. And when you coach yourself, you must first sweep in front of your own door to make the world a clean place. And Stephen has represented that, has validated that, has affirmed that for me. And I've used that Francis of Assisi quote multiple times, preach the gospel at all times, but only use words when necessary. And Steph does that. He preaches the gospel, and when he uses words, he usually throws his mouthpiece.
Guilty.
I wanted to talk a little bit about the impact, Stephen, that you hope to have beyond basketball. So, you've changed the game of golf in this country. You've opened it up to African Americans through your generosity to Howard and through the Underrated Tour. Congratulations on your Charlie Sifford Award that the Golf Hall of Fame will present you at the US Open in North Carolina this summer. It's really amazing. Your work with Eat, Learn, Play is amazing, and the quiet but impactful difference you're making at Davidson for students who are underserved in one way or another, and including women athletes and the scholarship that you and Aisha sponsor. Like, how do you think about all of that together and the impact that you hope to have?
It's wild because everything you just said is beyond my wildest dreams of tangible impact that we could create. And I say we as in me, Aisha, our teams that have come together with like-minded, energy to do this good work. For us, I think, and for me, I think it's about going clicks deeper into every lane that we've kind of established where, one, I'm passionate about, two, I know I can move the needle to create tangible change, rally the right amount of dedicated resources to, you said the work within the minority golf world. We're looking out at Oakland across the bay right here, and our Eat, Learn, Play Foundation and the work that we're doing to change the access to the basic needs that the next generation, deserves and requires to achieve their full potential. We've just really planted our flag in all of these different areas, and we're doing some amazing work, and we've been recognized for some of that work, but that's going to be our life's work. And so we've created those lanes, and I'm excited to continue to obviously dedicate. Another one thing that Coach says is, the biggest gift to anybody is time and love, and I'm going to continue to do that. So the possibilities are endless in terms of where it takes us, but I know for sure that we've changed lives. We're going to continue to do that, and we're going to see some amazing success stories of these kids that are going to be the next leaders, the next CEOs and game changers across every industry because of the work that we're doing.
I wonder if we might turn a little bit to Davidson and how you've seen it evolve. And you two have been a key part in raising our profile nationally, frankly, and you both have gone far beyond basketball, beyond athletics with your commitments. But if you think of coming in '06 to Davidson, how have you seen the campus change? You know, we like to talk about being much more socioeconomically diverse and racially, internationally, ethnically diverse. But I wonder how it's felt for you as an alum, and I'll get to perseverance in a little bit, but how have you seen it change since you arrived?
I mean, there's still the charm and the approachability of you get off of exit 30 and pull up at the campus, and you know, obviously the campus has grown, the facilities have changed. Sometimes I go back, and even though it's small, I still get a little lost on like what's the new additions that are going on there in the last 15 years. But everything's been about, you know, making the student experience better. You talk about the diversity, and I just get excited when you meet alumni and they talk about, you know, the influence that our team had of, you know, putting Davidson on the map in a sense. But you know, it's not a secret anymore, and that excites me.
And there's something about the strength that we have with our enrollments, with our alumni base, our faculty, the campus, that allows us to think beyond the short term. And I love the fact that we know we're going to be here in 50 years and 100 years, and thus are able to think strategically about the now and looking forward. And I love the journey we're on to be more national and international, and to still be, in fact, more grounded in the Charlotte area, and we're more a part of Charlotte than we've ever been. When you grew up there, Stefan, there was a distance, even farmland between Davidson and Charlotte, and now it's just one big region, and that's exciting too. But you know, we're in it for the long haul. And I wanted to ask you both about perseverance, and maybe I'll start this time with you, Bob. Your first year as a head coach at Davidson was my senior year as a college student. You had to really dig in to turn that program around and to turn it into what it has become. And I wonder if you could talk about perseverance as a coach. And then Stefan, I want to ask you about perseverance. You know, you dealt with quite a few injuries in the NBA, and some people might have given up. And you also showed perseverance in getting your diploma from Davidson. So it would have been so easy, as I said, to say night-night to the thought of a diploma. You could have so easily put it behind you, but you didn't. For me, perseverance is a virtue, and I'd love to hear you both talk about it.
Well, let me just look at what's etched in my gut. 4 and 24, 9 and 19, 11 and 17. That was the first 3 years we were on board. And
that sounds like our first 3 years here with the Warriors.
I was brought to my knees, and in the process of being introspective, I came to an understanding of those 3 little words of trust, commitment, and care, made that the foundation upon which we built our program. But it first started with myself, and I had to cleanse myself of the disease of me, because I was all about me. And what a renaissance that was for me, what a metamorphosis that was for me to go from disease of me and being consumed to trust, commitment, and care.
I mean, I would just add, just from the element of perseverance for me is the temptation to be so results-based and oriented that you lose sight of the small progress, to your point, that you're making and what that journey can teach you along the way. So through ankle injuries and rehab, it taught me a little bit about how my body works, and things that I needed to learn for the long endurance and sustainability of a now 15-year, hopefully a lot longer career. To losing games first 3 years, you understand how details matter, and if your ability to learn those lessons and stay committed, like you said, steal that word, to the journey, that's where the fun is. On the day of your graduation ceremony at Davidson last year, I got to see you practice, do your workout routine on the Davidson men's basketball practice court. Your brother Seth joined as well. I'd never seen anything like it. The precision, the care, the routine, and then it occurred to me, you've done that same routine probably 1,000 times. And underrated ends not with you getting the diploma and me handing it to you, but then you go on to another practice. And I think that was a beautiful ending to say that the story continues.
But how did you get inspired to see how much work it takes to, was it role models you had? Was it, you think it's innate? Is it a gift?
I think there's something innate about it, but you have to kind of be taught. You have to expose yourself to those influences that can kind of push you. I mean, you know, my dad always used to say, make sure you're playing, like when I was coming up in middle school, make sure you're playing with guys that are better than you. Make sure you put yourself in scenarios where you're pushed and challenged. Because then that'll teach you how you respond to those moments. And how I responded to defeat was to work harder. It wasn't second guessing myself. It wasn't, I mean, there's human nature and doubt, but that creeps in from time to time. But the work was what I kind of rested on, if that makes sense, in terms of building my confidence and the ability to deserve confidence when I'm out there on the floor, you know, playing. So I think it's always been a part of me for, you know, and I've been comfortable being uncomfortable in that scenario. But I always fall back to the work, no matter to the point of, you know, having success, and how you know, handle success, how you handle failure is always a reflection of, you know, what matters the most to you. And for me, the preparation was everything. And so even now, when, you know, can I feel like I can get better? Yeah, I feel like I can get better now because I know I'm going to put the work in to do it. So it's always been a part of me. One
of the nicest things I've heard Bob say about you, at least in my book, is that you're the same person when the camera's on or the camera's off. And that's what I call integrity. And so appreciate that.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask you about the graduation at Davidson, and at that nice ceremony last year, one of the things you said was that coming to Davidson was one of the best decisions you ever made. I wonder if you could say a little bit more about that, and how you think about the different kinds of decisions you've made, and how that one to come to alma mater, to come to Davidson, stands up.
I mean, it's top of the list for all the reasons that we've been talking about, and the things that I've learned from him, from my teammates, from the Davidson community, the sense of pride that I have of being able to represent Davidson College everywhere that I go. Like I said, that first decision was just about a feeling of, you know, the trust of Coach and his staff, and the ability for them to help me reach my full potential on and off the court. Everything that's come from, you know, my life, you know, basketball success, the influence that I have off the court, those seeds were planted those 3 years that I was at Davidson for a lot of different reasons. And it's so amazing to have the people, you know, in my life still, like you said, to share the journey with. You know, work with some teammates on some ventures outside of basketball that are extremely rewarding, and to know that we all, you know, have the same feeling about when we first met and first kind of went to battle together on the basketball floor, what's come of that. And so I don't know what my life would look like had I decided to go anywhere else, you know, basketball or otherwise, and adapt that as part of your identity. The overflow is crazy in the sense of all the things that I could kind of, you know, pinpoint to what I've learned from him, what I've learned from, you know, that rocket ship that happened from '06 to '08, and what I learned about myself and how important it was to maintain, you know, who you are through it all.
I've heard you talk a lot about Coach McKillop and the basketball program, and I've heard you talk about Professor Kaufman and Professor Ross and others who've helped you along the way. How do you think overall about Davidson as a liberal arts college, and, you know, the way we talk about liberal arts as freeing the mind, opening up the mind to think broadly? How do you think that shaped your focus on life beyond basketball as well as the basketball court?
Pretty sure I'm going to be one of those 30,000 that are going to say the same thing about how, one, we talk about our honor statements and the fact that we had to go to class. It wasn't like the normal, when I say the normal, the basketball student athlete kind of misconception of we were just there to play basketball and class was kind of secondary. We were student athletes, and the liberal arts journey was challenging and rewarding all at the same time, because you're training critical thinkers, you're opening the mind to different concepts and ideas, and I've tried to adapt that to the way that you see life and figuring out problems as you go along. And so, you know, that's my experience. And, you know, even as those last 13-year journey from when I took my last class to when I finally graduated, like, it's a reflection of exactly what that educational experience is designed to do, and why you have so many amazing people doing amazing things in so many different fields, where we still have a connection of where it all started.
Bob, you came to Davidson twice. Would you say, as an assistant coach, and then later you were called back to be the head coach, would you say it was a good decision for you?
It has left me with a treasure chest of memories, a heart and a head filled with souvenirs. I could never, ever imagine having the experience I had there because of the people that I was exposed to. And despite the inadequacies that I demonstrated in those first couple of years, they stuck with me and taught me how to respond to those inadequacies. What a learning lesson that was. So in a sense, I got a Davidson education. And that Davidson education has taught me that you have to be a, so to speak, Renaissance person. And is he a point guard? Is he a shooting guard? He's a player. And that's what I think the Davidson experience creates for you. It creates players. It doesn't create point guards. It doesn't create power forwards. It doesn't create centers. It creates players who become great people.
And I think it creates leaders. And you know, the statement of purpose is about helping cultivate the humane instincts and discipline and creative minds for lives of leadership and service. And your time as a staff member, as a coach, and now as leader in residence, and your time, Stefan, as an alum, you embody those things. You embody our values, and that means so much. Bob, not only did you gain memories at Davidson, you also gained a bobblehead. I don't know, Stefan, you've probably seen this, but Stefan, you're going to join the ranks of bobbleheads tonight with the Davidson uniform. And I don't have a bobblehead, but I do have students created the Doug mug. And I wanted to present you with the Doug mug.
Let me get the Doug mug from inauguration 23. Look at that.
So not
a
quite as
over there too. Is that the? Oh, I got. Oh, you're bringing it over?
Oh.
I didn't know if you were. So we got all three of us represented now.
Look at this.
Wow.
What would you call it? The ironic thing about that is how much facial hair I have, and that wearing the Davidson jersey when it was nowhere near looking like that back in 06.
And those shorts didn't fit you like that either.
It looks pretty good, Stefan, and I'll tell you what, to have not only a Davidson jersey, but a Davidson diploma on this bobblehead, I can't tell you what that means to us at the college. I'm really proud of that. I just wanted to say thanks to both of you guys. You are leaders, and you're also thoughtful practitioners. You help us to think about what it means to lead in a very complex society, and you've used your sport to make a better place and to make a better Davidson. So what an honor it is to spend time with you and talk about these things today. Go Cats and go Warriors.
Yes, sir. Great day to be a Wildcat. This is phenomenal.